Imagine you're standing in line at a high-end coffee shop. Just a random Tuesday morning. You look around and you see two people ahead of you in line.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
So one of them is wearing this sharply tailored Italian wool suit. They're checking a stainless steel luxury watch, scrolling through emails on like the latest flagship phone.
Yeah, right, the classic executive look.
Exactly. And the other person is wearing a faded, slightly frayed fleece jacket, standard blue jeans, and they're just staring blankly out the window waiting for a plain drip coffee.
A very different vibe.
Yeah, completely. Now, if you had to bet your entire life savings on which one of them is the millionaire, your brain immediately screams to pick the suit. I mean, we are so culturally conditioned to look for visual cues of wealth.
The cars, the clothes, the visible spending.
Right. We treat wealth like a broken arm on an x-ray. We expect this jagged white line that we can just point to and say, well, there it is. There's the money.
But the data reveals a completely different reality.
It really does. The person in the suit is likely drowning in debt to maintain that image, while the person in the faded fleece is the one sitting on a 7-figure portfolio. And understanding why that is changes absolutely everything.
It completely upends our fundamental assumptions, doesn't it? I mean, we tend to view wealth as an event, like a lottery ticket or a massive inheritance or, I don't know, a sudden astronomical salary jump.
Right, the overnight success myth.
Exactly. But when you strip away those anomalies, what you find is that enduring wealth is almost never an event. It's a lagging indicator.
Lagging indicator. I love that phrasing.
Yeah, it's the delayed physical byproduct of an invisible underlying architecture. It's this highly specific set of behaviors, psychological traits, and daily systems that operate entirely beneath the surface. And they just compound quietly over decades.
And tearing down that myth, the myth of the overnight success or the trust fund baby that is our mission for this deep dive, we're going to map that invisible architecture.
And we have some incredible source material to do it.
We really do. We're bringing in a massive trove of data. We're talking about a rigorous, incredibly rare academic study out of Germany that mapped the actual verified psychological profiles of high net worth individuals.
Plus, we're looking at behavioral economics, the morning routines of the world's most effective executives.
Yeah, and the neurological realities of delayed gratification from the famous Stanford marshmallow experiment.
Right, and we cap it all off with the literal mathematics of compound interest used by major financial institutions.
It's a lot to cover, but our goal is to answer a sequence of questions for you. How do these people think? How do they structure the first few hours of their day? How do they rewire their own impulses? And finally, what is the mathematical engine they plug all of that psychology into? So let's unpack this, because what we found in these sources completely shifts how we need to think about getting ahead.
We really have to start with the psychology, because before we can evaluate what wealthy people actually do in their daily lives, we have to understand who they fundamentally are.
Behavior flows from identity.
Always. And this is where that study published in the British Journal of Psychology becomes our foundational text. It's a landmark piece of research simply because of its methodology.
Because true psychological data on the ultra-wealthy is notoriously difficult to capture, right?
Oh, it's nearly impossible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, billionaires aren't exactly lining up to fill out academic surveys for a $20 gift card.
Yeah. I can't really picture Elon Musk taking a personality quiz for academic credit.
Right. So researchers usually have to rely on proxies. They'll survey business school students and just assume they represent future wealthy individuals, or they'll use income brackets rather than actual accumulated wealth.
Which is flawed. High income doesn't mean high net worth.
Exactly. But this German study bypassed the proxies completely. They secured 130 de facto high net worth individuals. And the threshold wasn't just having a nice house and a good zip code.
No, these were individuals with at least 1 million euros in pure liquid financial assets.
Verified millionaires.
That is wild. They actually got their hands on verified millionaire profiles.
They did. And they took those 130 profiles and held them up against a massive representative sample of almost 23,000 people from the general population.
That is a huge control group.
It's massive. They ran them through the classic Big Five personality traits, which, for anyone unfamiliar, are extroversion, openness to experience, conscientiousness, agreeableness, and neuroticism.
And they also measured specific narcissistic tendencies and this really crucial concept known as the locus of control. We're going to dig heavily into that later.
But the researchers did something brilliant before they even looked at the millionaires' results.
Oh, right. The stereotype baseline.
Yes. They established a baseline of our cultural bias. They took a separate sample of almost 700 average people and essentially asked them, well, if you had to guess, what do you think the psychological profile of a millionaire looks like?
They basically quantified the stereotype. What did people assume?
The perception gap here is fascinating, though maybe not surprising. The general public painted a very distinct, very dark picture. The overwhelming consensus was that the wealthy are intensely neurotic, highly disagreeable, and driven by pathological narcissism.
The public basically described the villain in a Charles Dickens novel. Just greedy, unstable, entirely self-obsessed, and, willing to step on anyone to get an extra dollar.
But the nuance in the data is critical here. When the researchers finally unveiled the actual profiles of the 130 millionaires and compared them to the public's guess, they found that the public wasn't entirely wrong in their direction, but they were wildly incorrect in their degree and interpretation.
Okay, let's unpack this. What did the actual millionaire X-ray look like when they held it up to the light? Let's go trait by trait.
Sure. Let's start with extroversion and openness to experience. Compared to the 23,000 people in the general population, the high net worth group scored significantly higher in both categories.
So they're outgoing.
Very much so. Markedly more outgoing and significantly more willing to embrace novel, untested ideas.
See, I always thought of extroversion strictly in terms of socializing. Like, wanting to be the life of the party or needing to be around people to recharge your batteries.
That's the common understanding, yeah.
But if we translate that into a financial or business context, extroversion isn't just about liking cocktail parties, is it?
Not at all.
Yeah.
It translates into a high tolerance for social risk. Building wealth, especially through business or investing, it requires convincing other people to part with their capital or their time or their expertise.
You have to actually make the ass.
Exactly. It requires standing up in front of a room and risking public failure. A highly extroverted person is psychologically insulated against the fear of that social rejection. They view social interactions as an arena of opportunity rather than, a field of landmines.
And openness to experience naturally pairs with that. I mean, if you're terrified of the unknown, you're going to just put your money in a mattress. But if you're open to experience, you're actively looking for the new market, the emerging technology, the unconventional investment vehicle.
Which leads directly into the third trait, conscientiousness. Mm-hmm. The millionaire cohort scored drastically higher here.
Okay. Define conscientiousness in this context.
It's the measure of an individual's self-discipline, their organization, and their goal-directed behavior. It's the ability to formulate a long-term plan and rigidly adhere to it despite short-term distractions.
So highly social, highly open, and incredibly disciplined. It's painting a very flattering picture so far. But what about the negative traits? The public assumed they were highly neurotic. Did the data actually back that up?
The data showed the exact inverse. The millionaire group scored significantly lower on neuroticism than the general public.
Wait, really?
Yes. They possess a much higher baseline of emotional stability.
That is surprising, because if you look at pop culture depictions of, Wall Street traders or tech founders, they're always portrayed as these screaming, anxious, stressed out wrecks on the verge of a heart attack.
Yeah, well, that is the drama required for television, not the reality required for compounding wealth. High neuroticism means you're prone to anxiety, mood swings, emotional reactivity.
And in the financial world, emotional reactivity is a death sentence.
It absolutely is. It's the impulse that makes you panic sell your entire portfolio because the market dipped 3% on a Tuesday. High emotional stability acts as a shock absorber.
So they don't panic when things go wrong.
Right. It allows these individuals to observe chaos, process the data logically, and execute their strategy without their nervous system hijacking the steering wheel.
Okay, so they're stable, outgoing, open, and disciplined. But we have to address the elephant in the room here: narcissism.
Ah, yes.
The public thought they were incredibly narcissistic, were they, right?
Yes. The data confirms the millionaires are significantly more narcissistic than the general population.
Validation for the public.
Well, hold on. We have to be incredibly precise about what kind of narcissism we're discussing here. Psychology differentiates between two main branches. There is antagonistic narcissism, which is what the public pictured.
Being hostile, putting others down.
Demanding unearned superiority, yes.
The toxic boss archetype.
Exactly. But the high net worth individuals did not index high on antagonistic narcissism. They indexed high on what researchers call agentic narcissism. Sometimes it's referred to as narcissistic admiration.
Okay, what is the difference there?
It's an intense, almost unshakable focus on oneself, one's own goals, and a profound, unwavering belief in one's own agency to shape the world. They admire their own capabilities and are aggressively focused on self-actualization.
Wow. That sounds like a superpower disguised as a character flaw. It's basically an armor of self-belief.
That's a great way to put it.
And I imagine that dovetails directly into the final psychological metric the study measured: the locus of control.
The locus of control is arguably the keystone concept for everything we're going to discuss today. It's a psychological spectrum. On one end, you have an external locus of control.
Meaning everything happens to you.
Right. It's the ingrained belief that your life is largely dictated by external forces. Fate, luck, the economy, your boss, the government. When something bad happens, you're a victim of circumstance. When something good happens, you just got lucky.
You are basically a passenger in the car.
Exactly. On the other end of the spectrum is the internal locus of control. This is the deeply held conviction that you are the architect of your outcomes. If a project fails, it was a flaw in your strategy. If it succeeds, it was a result of your effort.
You own it all.
Yes. And the German study revealed that the high net worth individuals possessed a radically high internal locus of control compared to the general population.
I hear that, and part of me thinks, well, of course they do.
How do you mean?
I mean, if I had 5 million euros in the bank, I would probably feel incredibly in control of my destiny too, and I'd probably be pretty emotionally stable knowing I never have to worry about a grocery bill again.
That's a valid point.
This brings up a massive chicken and egg problem for me. Are these people wealthy because they have these traits? Or do they have these traits because they are bathed in the psychological comfort of wealth?
It's a classic debate.
It's like looking at an Olympic swimmer's body. Is Michael Phelps shaped like that because he swam 10,000 miles? Or did he become a world champion swimmer because his skeletal structure was genetically built for the water?
The researchers address this directly. It's known as the nature versus nurture debate of wealth attainment. And there are two competing theories in the academic literature. The first is the personality and status attainment theory.
Okay, break that down for us.
This essentially argues the selection effect. It states that individuals who naturally possess high conscientiousness, high emotional stability, and an internal locus of control are naturally selected by the market for high-status leadership roles and entrepreneurial success.
So their innate personality drives their behavior, which eventually produces the wealth.
Right.
So the psychology acts as the seed, and the wealth is the tree that grows from it.
That's the first theory. The competing theory is called the solipsistic social cognitive tendencies theory.
Man, that is an absolute mouthful of an academic phrase. Let's translate that for everyone.
Fair enough.
Okay.
So solipsistic essentially means the view that the self is all that can be known to exist. This theory argues that having abundant resources fundamentally alters your neurological environment.
How so?
If you live in a world where every need is instantly met, where money acts as a frictionless buffer between you and the harsh realities of life, your brain is trained to become highly self-focused. You develop a high internal locus of control simply because your money allows you to actually control your environment.
Ah, I see.
In this theory, the wealth creates the personality profile. The environment shapes the mind.
Both of those make total logical sense. How do you possibly untangle them to find out which one is actually driving the car?
The researchers used a brilliant statistical technique called propensity score matching.
Propensity score matching. Okay, what is that?
Well, they didn't just dump the 130 millionaires into a spreadsheet against the 23,000 average people. They meticulously matched each millionaire with individuals from the general population who shared their exact demographic footprint.
Oh, that's smart. So they didn't compare a 60-year-old male millionaire executive to, like, a 22-year-old female college student.
Exactly. They found a 60-year-old male with a similar educational background and career field who simply hadn't accumulated the wealth. They controlled for age, gender, education, and occupational status.
And what happened when they leveled the playing field like that?
What they found was that even when you hold all of those environmental and demographic factors completely constant, the psychological gap remained glaring. Yes, the millionaire cohort was still significantly more extroverted, far more conscientious, much more emotionally stable, and displayed the defining internal locus of control.
Which heavily implies that while money certainly reinforces the comfort of these traits, it doesn't invent them.
It implies the existence of a definitive entrepreneurial personality profile. These specific psychological traits are not merely the byproduct of a heavy wallet. They act as the active driving engine of wealth creation.
That is fascinating. But this leaves us with a highly practical problem.
What's that?
Well, a psychological profile is just abstract, stored potential. It's kinetic energy waiting to happen. How does an internal locus of control actually manifest in the physical world on a random Tuesday morning? Because having a great personality doesn't automatically compound your index funds.
Right.
We have to look at the transition from identity to behavior.
And that transition happens the moment they open their eyes. To see an internal locus of control in action, we have to examine the architecture of their mornings.
This is where our source material from the Divine Arty breakdown of ultra-successful CEO morning routines comes in. It provides the physical evidence of the psychological theory.
Exactly. We've established who they are. Now we look at what they do. And looking at this data, the most common denominator is aggressive. We're talking about the 4:30 a.m. advantage.
The consistency across industries is staggering. Tim Cook at Apple wakes up at 3:45 a.m.
Bob Iger at Disney is up at 4:15 a.m.
Howard Schultz from Starbucks, 4:30 a.m. Jeff Bezos, around 5:00 a.m.
It's a clear pattern.
But I guarantee a large portion of people just rolled their eyes hearing that, because the whole wake up at 4 a.m. to be successful narrative has been hijacked by internet hustle culture. It feels like productivity porn.
Oh, absolutely.
It's pitched as a way to just grind harder and suffer more than your competition.
And that framing entirely misses the strategic point. Early rising for these individuals is not some masochistic exercise in suffering. It is not about simply logging more hours at a desk.
Then what is it about?
It is the ultimate expression of the internal locus of control. It is about taking territory before the enemy arrives.
Taking territory from whom?
From the reactive demands of the world. Think about the life of a CEO, or frankly, the life of anyone managing a complex modern existence.
Yeah, it's chaotic.
The moment the standard workday begins at 8:00 or 9:00 a.m., you no longer own your time. You are bombarded by incoming stimuli, urgent emails, employee crises, client demands, market shifts.
Everyone needs a piece of you.
Right. From 9:00 to 5:00 p.m., you're playing defense. You are reacting to other people's agendas. But at 4:30 a.m.,
it's quiet.
The world is completely silent. Nobody asking you for anything. It is the only guaranteed, mathematically certain window of uninterrupted time in the entire 24-hour cycle.
So they use the morning to play offense before the defense is forced upon them. And from a neurological standpoint, this is about hoarding a very finite resource. We need to talk about decision fatigue.
Decision fatigue is a silent killer of wealth accumulation.
I feel like people underestimate how draining choices are.
But they do. The human brain operates like a battery when it comes to willpower and executive function. Every single decision you make, from what color shirt to wear, to what to eat for breakfast, to whether or not to acquire a rival company, it draws power from that same cognitive battery.
Wait, so your brain doesn't distinguish between the energy needed to pick out a tie and the energy needed to approve $1 million budget?
Well, the magnitude of the decision matters, obviously, but the mechanism of depletion is exactly the same. By the time it's 3:00 p.m., after hundreds of micro-decisions, your prefrontal cortex is exhausted.
And that's when you mess up.
It's when people make terrible financial choices. It's when they snap at their employees or abandon their long-term strategy for a short-term fix.
Just because they're tired?
Right. By waking up at 4:30 a.m., these leaders are allocating their highest, freshest cognitive capacity to the most vital, long-term strategic thinking, long before the chaotic demands of the day can drain their battery.
Okay, so the alarm goes off in the dark. They are awake. What are they actually doing with that quiet time? Because they aren't just sitting on the couch staring at the wall.
Far from it.
The source data shows an overwhelming majority, upward of 80% of Fortune 500 CEOs engage in rigorous physical exercise before they ever look at a work document. Tim Cook is in the gym. Jack Dorsey walks 5 to 7 miles. Richard Branson plays tennis or goes kite surfing.
The immediate assumption is vanity, right? Or just basic health maintenance. But beneath that is a profound biochemical strategy. Movement is not just physical, it is an executive function hack.
Explain the biology here, specifically BDNF. When I was reading the source notes on this, it completely reframed how I view a morning run.
Oh, BDNF is fascinating. It stands for brain-derived neurotrophic factor. In the simplest terms, BDNF is a protein that promotes the survival of nerve cells and encourages the growth of new synapses.
I've heard it described as fertilizer for the brain, but I think that's kind of a weak analogy. It's more like a neurochemical paving crew, right?
Yeah. That is a much better way to visualize it. When you're trying to build wealth, you need the neurological pathway between feeling an impulse and making a rational choice to be a frictionless, well-paved highway.
You don't want to get stuck in the mud of your own emotions.
Exactly. The data shows that intense morning exercise increases BDNF levels by up to 32%. It literally paves the neural pathways required for memory, complex learning, and higher-order executive function.
And while the BDNF is going up, something else is going down: cortisol.
Correct. Cortisol is the body's primary stress hormone. It's the chemical of the fight or flight response. Morning exercise has been shown to reduce baseline cortisol levels by roughly 20%, and that reduction holds steady for up to 12 hours.
Let's connect that back to the German psychology study. We noted that the millionaire cohort had extraordinarily high emotional stability and low neuroticism. Are we seeing them chemically engineer that emotional stability every single morning?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They are actively burning off the physiological precursors to anxiety. By lowering their cortisol at 5:00 a.m., they ensure that when a crisis hits their desk at 2:00 p.m., their nervous system is chemically buffered against panic.
They just don't react the same way.
Right. They are biologically pre-programmed to make rational, emotionally stable decisions for the duration of the workday.
But the physical exertion is only half the equation. The source material also highlights a massive prevalence of stillness.
Mindfulness practices.
Yeah. We see leaders like Ray Dalio, the billionaire founder of Bridgewater Associates, attributing much of his success to 20 minutes of transcendental meditation, a practice he's maintained for decades.
Oprah Winfrey, too.
Right. Oprah dedicates significant morning time to meditation and intention journaling. Is sitting with your eyes closed just a trendy Silicon Valley wellness hack, or is there a measurable ROI to this silence?
It's the psychological counterpart to the physical exercise. If the treadmill primes the hardware, the meditation calibrates the software. Let's return to that concept of the internal locus of control.
The idea that you're in charge.
Yes. Cultivating that belief requires constant maintenance. The chaos of a high-stakes environment will naturally try to shift your locus of control externally. It tries to make you feel like a victim of circumstance.
No, meditation is a defense mechanism.
It is an active reinforcement of agency. A very common technique used in these morning routines involves spending the final minutes of a meditation session actively setting an intention for the day.
Like visualizing what you're going to do.
Visualizing the execution of their strategy and committing to reacting from a place of logic rather than fear. They are deciding who they will be before the world has a chance to tell them who to be.
And that leads to what I consider the most fascinating and, frankly, the most difficult habit outlined in the Divine Arti Breakdown. Habit number 7, the email rule.
The absolute prohibition of checking email until 9 to 0 a.m.
Tim Ferriss has a quote that perfectly summarizes this. He says, "If I start with email, the day owns me."
It is the ultimate litmus test of an internal locus of control. Your email inbox is not a tool for your productivity. It is quite literally a database of other people's agendas, demands, and emergencies.
When you open your inbox at 6 a.m., you are instantly handing the steering wheel of your brain over to whoever decided to email you at midnight.
Right.
You abandon your proactive strategy and instantly become reactive. You start playing defense.
And the cost of that reactivity is quantifiable. The source data points out that executives who successfully delay checking their email until they've completed their morning routine and at least 1 hour of proactive, deep work.
What happens?
They complete over 2 times more strategic, long-term tasks than those who check their phone from bed.
The source even provides a tactical 30-day implementation plan for anyone trying to build this architecture. Because let's be honest, you can't just wake up tomorrow 3 hours earlier and expect to function.
No, you'd crash by noon.
So it recommends a phased approach. Week 1, wake up just 30 minutes earlier and implement 20 minutes of movement. Week 2, stack 10 minutes of mindfulness or meditation onto that. Week 3, add 15 minutes of strategic reading or day planning. And finally, in week 4, implement the total ban on morning email until your priority work is done.
It's a systematic, graded exposure to discipline. It builds the scaffolding of wealth.
I love the theory of all of this. I really do. But I gotta play devil's advocate here. It's incredibly easy for us to sit here on this deep dive, analyzing data sets and say, well, the path to wealth is simple. Have an internal locus of control, wake up at 5 a.m., go for a run, meditate, and don't look at your iPhone.
It sounds easy on paper.
But the reality of human nature is entirely different. The 5:00 a.m. alarm goes off, the bedroom is freezing, the bed is remarkably warm, and that smartphone is sitting right there on the nightstand, glowing, offering instant dopamine. The gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it is a chasm. How do people cross it?
That is the pivotal transition in our analysis. We have to move from the what to the how. Relying on sheer willpower is a losing battle. Willpower depletes. Motivation is like the weather, it changes daily.
So what's the alternative?
To sustain these behaviors over the decades required for compounding wealth, you have to bypass willpower entirely. You have to build automated psychological systems. You have to understand the architecture of habits.
Which brings us to the intersection of behavioral economics and personal finance. We're pulling heavily here from James Clear's framework and Atomic Habits, specifically how it's applied by financial institutions like CoinScrap Finance, alongside Thomas Corley's extensive Rich Habits study.
Right.
Let's start with the banking sector. How are institutions weaponizing the psychology of habit formation to force us to do the right thing?
CoinScrap Finance relies on the foundational 4 laws of behavior change: cue, craving, response, and reward. Every habit, whether it's smoking a cigarette or transferring money into a brokerage account, follows this exact neurological loop.
So if you want to engineer a wealth-building habit, you must manipulate these 4 levers.
Yes.
So let's walk through this using the digital piggy bank module discussed in the source. Step 1 is the cue. Make it obvious. If the goal is to stop wasting money and start saving, what is the cue?
The cue must be a visceral confrontation with reality. Financial avoidance is incredibly common. People simply don't look at their credit card statements because it induces anxiety.
If you don't look, you don't feel the pain.
Exactly. And if you don't feel the pain, you don't change the behavior. So modern banking apps generate a cue by providing an unavoidable, highly visual, categorized breakdown of your spending the moment you open the app.
You log in and boom.
You're confronted with a pie chart showing exactly how much capital you bled on food delivery this month. The visual data is the trigger.
It's like having a picture of your goal weight on the refrigerator door. You can't reach for the junk food without confronting the reality. Okay, step 2 is craving. Make it attractive. Now, saving money is inherently unattractive to the human brain. It feels like deprivation. How does an app create a craving for deprivation?
By using hyper-personalization to change the target of the craving. If an app tells you to transfer $100 into a generic emergency fund, your brain feels no emotional attachment to that abstract concept.
It's just numbers.
But the source highlights a different approach. The app allows you to create a specific, micro-targeted savings goal with a visual anchor. The example they use is setting a goal to save 50 euros a month, specifically to buy a robot vacuum cleaner.
Oh, that's clever. The craving isn't for the numbers in the bank account. The craving is for the feeling of never having to push a vacuum around your living room ever again.
Exactly.
They attach the financial discipline to a highly desirable lifestyle upgrade.
They make the end result tangible. Step 3 is the response. Make it easy. This is the most critical stage. If there is friction between the intention to save and the act of saving, willpower will fail.
Because it's annoying to do.
Right. If you have to log into your portal, navigate to transfers, type in the amount, and confirm the transaction every single month, eventually you will skip a month.
So they eliminate the friction through automation.
Complete automation. Micro savings algorithms round up your everyday purchases to the nearest dollar and invest the spare change. They trigger automatic sweeps the moment a paycheck hits your account, moving the money before you ever see it.
They make it invisible.
They lower the barrier to action so entirely that it actually requires more effort to stop saving than it does to continue saving.
And the final step is the reward. Make it satisfying. We are dopamine-driven creatures. If a behavior doesn't offer an immediate payoff, we abandon it.
Which is incredibly difficult with wealth building, because the true payoff is decades away. So the system has to manufacture immediate satisfaction. Banks do this through gamification.
Like what?
Instant cashback rewards on routine purchases. Progress bars that burst into confetti animations when you hit a milestone on your robot vacuum fund. It provides an instant neurochemical hit to reinforce the behavior loop.
And the efficacy of this is undeniable. The CoinScrap data revealed that after launching a micro-saving module utilizing these 4 steps, nearly 3,000 users collectively saved over 1.5 million euros in a single month.
That's massive.
The average user effortlessly saved 400 euros simply by letting the automated loop do the work.
It proves that systems trump intentions. And this systematic, heavily structured approach to daily behavior is the exact phenomenon Thomas Corley uncovered in his 5-year study of high-net-worth individuals, which he codified into the Rich Habits framework.
Corley's work is fascinating because he observed real people over half a decade. The summary uses the narrative of 2 composite characters, J.C. Jobs and Champ Daly, to illustrate the stark difference between a poverty mindset and a wealth mindset.
He distilled his findings into 10 core principles.
And what strikes me is how unglamorous they are. It's not about finding secret stock tips. It's about aggressive consistency.
Let's examine a few of the most potent principles. Take his finding on goal setting. Corley noted that wealthy individuals don't just have vague aspirations. They use a highly specific filtering system for their goals. They focus obsessively on goals that have an 80% probability of completion.
Now, I have to stop you there, because that directly contradicts almost every piece of modern entrepreneurial advice out there.
Does it?
We are constantly told to 10x our goals. Shoot for the moon, set massive, impossible targets. Why would a wealth-building framework advocate for an 80% success rate? That sounds less aiming for mediocrity.
It sounds counterintuitive until you view it through the lens of the habit loop we just discussed. Setting a 10x goal might feel inspiring in the moment, but it almost guarantees failure in the short term.
Because it's too big.
Right. If you set a goal to make $1 million this month and you make 10,000, you failed. If you fail repeatedly, the reward stage of the habit loop is completely starved of dopamine. The behavior extinguishes.
Ah, I see.
By setting goals with an 80% chance of success, you engineer consistent victories. You build neurological momentum. You get the dopamine hit of completion, which fuels the motivation for the next, slightly larger goal. It's the mathematics of compounding applied to human psychology.
Incremental progress over dramatic leaps. Corley also highlights the principle of continuous learning, dedicating significant daily time to reading and skill acquisition.
And networking.
But not in the superficial handing out business cards at a mixer way. He observed them using systematic contact management software, building actual databases of relationships, tracking birthdays, tracking interests, and systematically adding value to those connections.
And returning to our foundational theme, Corley specifically observed the active cultivation of the internal locus of control through what he calls the do-it-now mentality.
The war against procrastination.
Procrastination is the psychological cousin of the external locus of control. If you fundamentally believe that your actions don't dictate your future, then there is no urgency to act today. Procrastination is a surrender to the environment.
Wow, that hits hard.
The do-it-now principle, the immediate execution of a task the moment it is identified, and the aggressive suppression of negative self-talk is a defense mechanism against apathy. It is the daily physical reaffirmation that you are in command of your ship.
Look, I grasp the power of building these internal systems. I understand setting the 80% goals, building the automated savings loops, and adopting the do-it-now mindset. But here's my fundamental issue with all of this. We're talking about using cue, craving, response, and reward to trick ourselves into saving money. But who else is using those exact same 4 laws of behavior change?
Everyone.
Amazon, Apple, every major retailer, casino, and social media platform on Earth. And they have billions of dollars in R&D and thousands of behavioral psychologists optimizing their platforms to make me spend my money.
It's an arms race.
We are living in a friction-free economy designed to drain our wallets with a single click. How does a single person with an 80% goal and a banking app possibly resist a multi-trillion-dollar ecosystem engineered to exploit their impulses?
You have just identified the ultimate battleground of wealth creation. The friction-free economy is a predator of future wealth, and the only defense mechanism strong enough to withstand it is the active mastery of delayed gratification.
Which transitions us perfectly to the most famous and perhaps most vital psychological study ever conducted on the human capacity to wait. Our source material from the Liberty Group dives deep into Walter Mischel's Stanford marshmallow experiment.
Conducted in the late 60s and early 70s, this study is the bedrock of our modern understanding of self-regulation.
For those who aren't familiar, paint the picture of this experiment. Because the setup is almost comically simple, yet the implications are staggering.
Researchers brought 4- and 5-year-old children into a sparse room. They sat the child at a table. On the table was a plate, and on the plate was a single marshmallow.
The ultimate temptation.
The researcher gave the child a very clear proposition. I have to leave the room for about 15 minutes. You can eat this marshmallow right now. But if you wait, and the marshmallow is still on the plate when I come back, I will give you a second marshmallow.
And then what?
Then the researcher walked out, leaving the child completely alone with their temptation.
The hidden camera footage of these sessions is legendary. You watch these tiny children engaged in, spiritual warfare. They're covering their eyes so they can't see it. They're smelling it. They're kicking the table. Some of them just instantly shove it in their mouths the second the door clicks shut.
It's hard to watch.
It is the purest distillation of the human condition, the agonizing choice between the immediate, guaranteed pleasure of today versus the abstract, doubled reward of tomorrow.
The choice between instant gratification and delayed gratification. But the true genius of Mischel's work wasn't observing how many kids ate the candy. It was tracking what happened to those specific kids over the next 40 years.
The longitudinal data. What actually happened to the kids who managed to wait 15 minutes for the second marshmallow?
As they moved through high school, college, and into middle age, The children who successfully delayed gratification exhibited exponentially higher levels of success across almost every conceivable metric.
We're talking about significantly higher SAT scores, lower body mass index, and lower rates of obesity, dramatically lower rates of substance abuse, better responses to stress, deeper social connections, and vastly higher professional and financial attainment.
Because the mechanism they use to resist the marshmallow at age 5 is the exact same neurological mechanism required to resist the impulse purchase at age 25, or the urge to panic sell a stock at age 45.
It all comes from the same place.
The ability to subordinate a present desire for a superior future outcome is the biological prerequisite for wealth.
But, saving for retirement is a much more complex equation than a kid waiting 15 minutes for a piece of candy. And honestly, it feels harder. Why is it so incredibly difficult for a rational 35-year-old adult to put $500 into a retirement account instead of buying a new television?
Because of how the human brain processes the concept of time and identity. Functional MRI scans have revealed a terrifying reality about our neurological wiring.
Terrifying how?
When you ask a person to think about themselves right now, a specific region of their brain lights up. When you ask them to think about a complete stranger, say, an actor they've never met, a different region lights up.
Okay, that makes sense. Self versus other.
But here is the critical failure in our hardware. When you ask a person to think about themselves in 30 years, their future self, the brain lights up in the exact same region as it does when thinking about a stranger.
Wait, seriously, are you saying my brain literally does not recognize 65-year-old me as me?
Neurologically, your future self is a stranger. So when a financial advisor tells you to skip a vacation today to fully fund your IRA for retirement, you are asking your brain to undergo an enormous sacrifice.
You're giving your money to some old guy you don't even know?
You're demanding that it forfeits a massive guaranteed surge of dopamine today and give that money to a theoretical stranger who doesn't even exist yet. It violates our evolutionary wiring.
That is a staggering realization. No wonder the friction-free economy wins. We are fighting billions of dollars of marketing with a brain that doesn't even care about our future. How do we hack this? If you can't rely on our biology, how do we artificially engineer delayed gratification?
The Liberty Group source provides highly tactical workarounds. The most immediate is a 24-hour wait rule.
This is a brilliant intervention. If you feel the impulse to buy something, especially a non-essential luxury item or a significant purchase, you institute a mandatory 24-hour embargo. You cannot click buy now. You add artificial friction back into the friction-free economy.
It acts as an emotional circuit breaker. The impulse to buy is driven by a dopamine spike. Dopamine has a very short half-life.
It fades fast.
By forcing a 24-hour delay, you allow the neurochemical spike to dissipate. The emotional reactive brain recedes, and the logical executive prefrontal cortex is allowed to come back online and assess the purchase objectively. You ask, will this item actually provide enduring value, or was I just bored and looking for a hit of dopamine?
The second major tactic they highlight is the out-of-sight, out-of-mind principle. This ties directly back to the automation we discussed with the habit loops.
You must orchestrate your finances so that the decision to save happens upstream from your conscious awareness. You maximize your 401k contributions or set up automatic transfers to brokerage accounts so that the capital is deducted before your paycheck ever clears into your primary checking account.
The source includes a great quote from an advisor's mother. She says, "You won't miss the money if you never see it. If your checking account says you have $4,000 instead of $5,000, you will naturally constrain your lifestyle to fit the $4,000.
You adapt.
You don't feel the psychological pain of parting with the money because, to your conscious mind, you never possessed it in the first place."
You are structurally enforcing delayed gratification without requiring daily willpower.
But I want to inject a massive caveat here, because if we aren't careful, this philosophy can become really toxic. We cannot talk about delayed gratification without mentioning Warren Buffett, arguably the greatest allocator of capital in human history.
He has a brilliant observation on the dangers of oversaving.
He essentially said that you don't build a meaningful life by never going to the movies, never taking a vacation, and hoarding every single penny until you're 80 years old.
A life entirely devoid of present joy is just a different kind of poverty.
I look at financial discipline a lot like dietary discipline. If you go on an extreme diet where you eliminate all carbohydrates, all sugar, and every single food that brings you joy, what inevitably happens...
Gosh.
You white-knuckle it for about 3 weeks, and then your willpower snaps, and you find yourself eating an entire chocolate cake over the sink at 2:00 a.m.
It's the rebound effect.
Financial diets operate on the exact same premise. If you aggressively delay all gratification and never budget for the occasional immediate reward, if you never allow yourself a small marshmallow today, your psychology will eventually rebel. You will experience burnout, abandon your systems entirely, and binge spend. You must surgically allocate capital for present joy to sustain the psychological endurance required for the long-term wait.
It's the balance between enjoying the journey and securing the destination. And this brings us to the grand culmination of our deep dive. Yes, we have built the foundation. We understand the agentic, internally controlled personality. We have observed how they proactively defend their mornings. We have mapped the automated systems of atomic habits, and we have navigated the biological hurdles of delayed gratification.
All of that psychology, all of that discipline is just software. Now, we must plug that software into the actual mathematical engine of wealth creation. We're moving into the raw mechanics. For this, we're synthesizing data from Money Farm, Gamebridge, and Mission Fed Credit Union.
And we have to start with the concept that Albert Einstein purportedly called the eighth wonder of the world: compound interest.
The quote attributed to Einstein is profound. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. Compound interest is the literal translation of time into money.
It is.
At its absolute baseline, how do we define it for someone who isn't a financial analyst?
It is interest, earning interest. When you deploy capital into an investment, it generates a return. In year 2, you do not just earn a return on your initial capital. You earn a return on the initial capital plus the return it generated in year 1.
It creates a mathematical snowball.
It starts deceptively slow, rolling down a long, flat hill. But as it gathers mass, the curve of its growth eventually turns exponential, accelerating upward at a staggering rate.
Let's ground this in hard numbers, because the human brain is terrible at conceptualizing exponential growth. The Money Farm source provides a beautiful, isolated example. Let's imagine you take £1,000 and invest it into an account that generates a reliable 5% annual return. You never add another dime to it. After 1 year, you have made £50. You are sitting at 1,050.
Nobody's throwing a parade for £50.
It feels completely insignificant. But if you possess the conscientiousness and the delayed gratification to simply leave that £1,000 alone for 30 years, the math takes over. That single £1,000 grows to over £4,300, more than quadruples, and you did absolutely nothing but wait.
But that is a static example. Let's look at what happens when you introduce the response stage of our habit loop. What happens when you automate a continuous monthly contribution?
Okay, let's take that same initial £1,000 at a 5% return. But this time, we automate a deposit of just £100 every single month, a completely manageable amount.
Right.
Over 30 years, if you calculate the principal, you will have contributed a total of £37,000 out of your own paycheck. But because of the compounding snowball, your account balance is not $37,000, it is over £87,000.
This is the magic. You contributed $37,000, but the mathematical engine generated over $50,000 in pure, unadulterated interest. The capital your money earned is significantly greater than the capital you actually invested.
Your money worked harder than you did.
Precisely. And this exposes the most critical, unyielding rule of the mathematics of wealth. Time is vastly more important than the principal amount. Time is the oxygen that the fire of compound interest requires to burn.
The snowball needs a very long hill to achieve exponential mass.
Let's look at the terrifying cost of procrastination, tying back to Corley's do-it-now principle. We establish that starting at age 25, investing £100 a month gets you to roughly $87,000 by age 55. What happens if you lack an internal locus of control? You procrastinate, and you wait 10 years to start. You begin at age 35.
You lost 10 years at the hill.
To reach that exact same £87,000 target by age 55, you can no longer invest £100 a month. You must invest over double that amount, roughly £207 a month.
The required effort doubles because the time was halved.
And if you delay until age 45, giving yourself only 10 years to compound, you must violently restrict your lifestyle and invest over £553 a month just to reach the same baseline that the 25-year-old hit with a mere 100.
Every single year you fail to delay gratification, you exponentially increase the physical price tag of your own financial freedom. Time is the first variable. The rate of return is the second. And I think this is where the average consumer gets absolutely fleeced because they do not understand the magnitude of a single percentage point.
The human brain sees the difference between 4% and 5% and registers it as a rounding error. It seems completely negligible.
Let's return to our baseline equation. 30 years, £100 a month, 5% return yields roughly £87,000. What happens to the snowball if your return drops by just one single percent down to a 4% average?
At 4%, your final 30-year balance drops to around £72,000. That seemingly insignificant 1% difference robbed you of nearly £15,000 in future wealth.
And this brings us to the devastating reality of where people choose to store their capital. The vehicle dictates the rate. The money farm data contrasts the tragedy of the traditional savings account with the necessity of the global market.
Over the past 2 decades, the Bank of England's average base rate hovered around 1.75%. If you left £1,000 languishing in a standard bank account at that rate, after 20 agonizing years, it would have grown to a meager £1,418.
A £400 game in 2 decades. And that's before the silent tax of inflation completely eviscerates the purchasing power of those pounds.
Conversely, if you possess the emotional stability to invest that same £1,000 into a broad market vehicle like the MSCI World Index, which tracks global equities, the historical average return over that same period was 8.8%.
So what happens to the £1,000?
Your £1,000 transforms to £5,775. It's nearly a 4-fold difference based entirely on the vehicle of choice.
So the offensive playbook is mapped. Cultivate the internal locus of control, automate your savings, start as early as humanly possible, and deploy the capital into growth vehicles that significantly outpace inflation. But playing offense is only half the game. You can score 100 points, but if your defense is terrible, you still lose.
That's true.
The Gainbridge and mission-fed credit union sources pivot aggressively into defense. They outline the catastrophic mistakes that destroy the compounding engine.
There are 8 common financial mistakes, and they all boil down to the misallocation of leverage and the inability to control the ego. The most destructive, pervasive trap is consumer debt specifically, carrying high-interest credit card balances month over month.
This is the dark side of Einstein's quote, "He who doesn't understand compound interest pays it."
Exactly. When you carry a balance on a credit card at an 18% or 22% interest rate, you have essentially strapped the jet engine to the back of your debt. The compounding mathematics are working against you with ruthless efficiency.
It's impossible to beat.
It is mathematically impossible to build long-term wealth earning 8% in the market while simultaneously paying 22% to a credit card company. You're bailing water out of a boat with a massive hole in the hull.
The second massive defensive failure they highlight is the overconsumption of housing and transportation. And this is pure psychology. It's the ego overriding the math. The societal pressure to project the visual illusion of wealth often entirely destroys the actual accumulation of wealth.
We return to your opening analogy of the man in the tailored suit versus the woman in the fleece. Let's look at housing. The Gainbridge source establishes a firm defensive perimeter. Your mortgage should absolutely not exceed 28% of your gross monthly income.
Why that specific number? Why 28%? What happens mechanically if a listener stretches their budget and takes on a mortgage that eats up 45% of their income just to get into the nicer neighborhood?
When you commit 45% of your gross income to a massive illiquid asset like a home, you become house poor. You have effectively eliminated your monthly margin.
You have no fuel left.
The engine of compounding requires monthly fuel, the 100, the 500, the 1,000 pounds you invest. If your massive mortgage consumes your entire cash flow, you have no fuel left to invest. Furthermore, houses require intense maintenance. When the roof leaks or the HVAC system dies, you have no cash reserves. How do you pay for the repair?
You put it on the credit card.
You put it on the 22% credit card. The ego-driven decision to buy the oversized house triggers a cascade of debt that permanently cripples your ability to build liquid wealth. A massive house is often the ultimate Trojan horse for your finances. It looks like an asset, but it acts like a massive liability draining your cash flow.
And the same exact logic applies to cars. The guidelines state your total vehicle expenses should remain firmly under 10 to 15% of your net income. But people routinely finance rapidly depreciating luxury vehicles over 84 months because they're desperate for the social validation of the emblem on the steering wheel.
They're trading their future for status today.
They're trading their compounding snowball for a temporary hit of external validation.
Which perfectly illustrates an external locus of control, allowing the perceived opinions of strangers in traffic to dictate your financial architecture.
Another critical defensive error the sources warn against is the psychological misuse of home equity. We saw this run rampant during the housing booms.
Treating your home equity as an ATM is a profound misunderstanding of risk. People watch the theoretical value of their home rise, and they take out a home equity line of credit to fund a luxury kitchen remodel, a boat, or a lavish vacation.
They just spend their house.
They are converting secured, illiquid equity into highly depreciating consumer goods. They are cannibalizing their own net worth to fund an inflated lifestyle.
And when the market corrects, they are completely over-leveraged, which points to the absolute necessity of the emergency fund, another key defensive pillar. Without a liquid cash buffer of 3 to 6 months of living expenses, any unexpected medical bill or sudden job loss forces you to liquidate your long-term investments prematurely.
Which derails your timeline.
Entirely derails the compounding timeline or forces you back into the arms of high-interest debt.
There is one final defensive strategy discussed that specifically targets those who have successfully navigated the entire process and are entering retirement. It's a counterintuitive trap.
The danger of becoming entirely conservative?
Precisely. The instinct when reaching retirement is to turn off the engine entirely, to take all of the hard-won capital out of the volatile equity markets and hide it in cash or low-yield bonds to protect it.
Sounds safe.
But human longevity has changed the equation. Retirement is no longer a 10-year waiting room. It can easily span 30 or 35 years.
And if your money is sitting in cash for 30 years, inflation is silently, relentlessly shrinking its purchasing power every single day.
A portfolio that stops growing is a portfolio that is actively dying. Retirees must maintain a strategic exposure to growth, whether through diversified equities, dividend-yielding stocks, or other growth vehicles, to ensure their compounding engine outpaces the silent tax of inflation, ensuring their wealth actually outlives them.
So, synthesizing everything we have unpacked today, the data is overwhelming, and it paints a picture that entirely obliterates the cultural myths we hold about success. It proves that your wealth is not ultimately determined by the size of your initial paycheck, or the ZIP code you were born into, or a lucky streak in the stock market. Enduring wealth is mathematically determined by the gap between your ego and your income.
That is the ultimate distillation.
It is a sequential journey. True wealth begins invisibly, Internally, it starts with the cultivation of an agentic, internal locus of control identity, the unshakable belief that you, and only you, dictate your outcomes. That psychological profile then manifests physically into a proactive morning routine, waking up in the dark to claim territory and defend your cognitive bandwidth against a reactive world.
And then building those loops.
Right. Those daily routines are then sustained, not by fleeting motivation, but by the ruthless engineering of atomic habit loops and the profound psychological endurance to delay gratification. Choosing the 2 marshmallows tomorrow over the 1 marshmallow today. And finally, all of that psychological endurance is rewarded by plugging those behaviors into the mathematical miracle of compound interest, provided you play an airtight defense against lifestyle creep, ego-driven spending, and consumer debt.
We have spent this entire deep dive deconstructing how to optimize your psychology, your daily habits, and your time for the express purpose of accumulating capital. But I want to offer a flipped perspective, a counter-narrative to leave you with.
Let's hear it.
Theoretically, capital is infinite. Governments can print it, markets can generate it. But your time is strictly, violently finite. You have a completely non-renewable allotment of days. If the ultimate, truest goal of wealth is not the accumulation of numbers on a screen, but the achievement of absolute personal freedom, how would your daily routines, your habit loops, and your marshmallow choices change tomorrow morning if you started treating your time as the ultimate compound asset rather than just your cash?
Wow. That is a brilliant reframing of the entire paradigm. Are you compounding your money to buy time, or are you spending your time just to compound money? Thank you all for joining us on this deep dive into the invisible architecture of success. Our challenge to you this week is simple. Do not try to implement the entire architecture tomorrow. Take one single microscopic habit from today's discussion. Perhaps it is enforcing a mandatory 24-hour pause before your next significant online purchase. Perhaps it's automating a $50 transfer that you never have to think about again. Or perhaps it's simply sitting in silence for 10 minutes before you allow the demands of your email inbox to dictate your morning. Reclaim your agency, take one step, and start compounding your future tomorrow.